Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 3 in Teaching, Reading, and Writing. In this chapter, we will discuss about intensive reading. Today, we will discuss what is intensive reading. Intensive reading is reading in detail with specific learning aims and tasks. Intensive study of reading texts can be a means of increasing learners' knowledge of language, features, and their control of reading strategies. It can also improve their comprehension skills. It fits into the language-focused learning strand of a course. It means in intensive reading, it requires full concentration and complete focus. In intensive reading, the classic procedure for this. Now, we will discuss the focuses in intensive reading. Intensive work on a reading text can focus on the following aspects. This will be looked at in more detail in the rest of this chapter and in other chapters in this book. First, focuses in intensive reading is comprehension. When we say comprehension, it means understanding and interpreting a particular text. In intensive reading, it can be aimed at understanding a particular text. Second, focuses in intensive reading is regular and irregular sound spelling relations. This can be done through the teaching of phonics, through teaching spelling rules, and through reading aloud. Third, focuses in intensive reading is vocabulary. When we say vocabulary, it focuses on the meaning and use of words. Learners' attention can be drawn to useful words, and underlying meaning and use of these words can be explained. Words from the text could be assigned for later study. Another focuses in intensive reading is grammar. Grammar focuses on the analysis of the system and structure of the language. Difficult grammatical features can be explained and analyzed using intensive reading. Cohesion, as one of the focuses in intensive reading, concerns the flow of sentences and paragraphs from one to another. In intensive reading, learners can practice interpreting what pronouns refer to in the text, what the conjunction relationships between sentences are, and how different words are used to refer to the same idea. Also, one focuses in intensive reading is the information structure. Information packaging describes the way in which information is formally packaged within a sentence. In intensive reading, certain texts contain certain kinds of information. Newspaper reports, for example, can describe what happened, what led to the happening, what the likely effects will be, who was involved, and when and where it happened. Learners can be helped to identify these different kinds of information. That's the focus of information structure in intensive reading. Another focus in intensive reading is the genre features. It focuses on communicative effect of a text. For example, the vocabulary, grammatical features, cohesive features, and information all contribute to the communicative effect of a text. In intensive reading, can focus on how the text achieve its communicative purpose through these features and what this communicative purpose is. That is the genre features in intensive reading. The last focus in intensive reading is the strategies. The strategies deals the way to achieve the plan or goal in learning. In intensive reading can be used to help learners develop useful reading strategies. By working intensively on a text, learners can practice the steps in guessing from contexts, using a dictionary, simplifying difficult sentences, and taking notes. They can also receive training in integrated packages of strategies. Part of the strategies as focus in intensive reading, and it will be discussed through in this chapter, are the strategies include comprehension, vocabulary, grammar, and cohesion. Now, let us look at what a good reading exercise should do. Let us discuss now the features of a good intensive reading exercise. Number one, developing ability to comprehend texts. A good reading exercise directs the learner's attention to features of the text that can be found in almost any text, or to strategies for dealing with any text, with the aim to develop in the language learner the ability to comprehend text, not to guide him to comprehension of a text. That is according to Davis and Widdowson, 1974. To put it in another way, when learners study a reading text, we want them to gain knowledge that will help them to understand tomorrow's reading text. We want them to learn things that can apply to all texts. We want them to gain knowledge of the language and ways of dealing with the language rather than understanding of a particular message. If a reading exercise does not focus on generalizable features of a text, it does not provide. It does not provide much opportunity for any useful cumulative learning to take place. This is a requirement for a particular important for teaching reading. Second features of a good intensive reading exercise is it requires learners to read the text. A good reading exercise really directs the learner's attention to the reading text. That is, when the learners need to read the text, or at least part of it, in order to do the exercise. It is also important that some reading exercise requires the learners to consider parts of the text in relation to their wider context. That is, other parts of the text and information from outside the text. The third features of a good intensive reading exercise is to provide useful feedback. A good reading exercise provides the teacher and the learners with useful information about the learner's performance on the said exercise. If the learners were not successful on some parts of the exercise, they should be aware of what they have to learn in order to do the exercise successfully with to the another text. Also, the teacher can get guidance from the learner's performance to improve teaching. Good exercise provide useful feedback for the teacher and the learners. Also, if the teacher understands what an exercise is trying to teach, they can judge the value of the exercise given to them according to what they think is important for teaching reading. And the last features of a good intensive reading exercise is easy to make. A good reading exercise is easy to make. Teachers have to choose texts suited to the particular needs of their learners. And if these texts do not have satisfactory exercise, the teachers must make their own exercise. Often, teachers may want the learners to work with a textbook that is used in another discipline they are studying, and so they will have to make their own exercises. This should require a minimum of skill and time. If the preparation of language teaching materials becomes the job only of experts, then language teachers will have lost the flexibility needed for successful teaching. So, a good reading exercise focuses on items, number one, items or strategies that apply to any text. Number two, it requires the learners to read the text. Number three, it provides useful feedback for the learners as well as the teachers. And of course, a good reading exercise is easy to make. Now we will move on to the next topic. Are comprehension questions good reading exercise? Let's discuss this one by one. Comprehension questions is one form or another or one of the language teaching techniques most frequently used to train learners in reading. They can take many forms, namely pronominal questions. Now, these forms of comprehension questions will be discussed after these questions. Yes or no questions, true or false statements, multiple choice items, fill in the blanks, or completion exercise. However, although comprehension questions may have a role to play in practicing reading, the various forms of reading comprehension questions are not so effective for teaching learners to read. In order to show this, let us look at comprehension questions according to the four features of a good reading exercise. We will discuss the good reading exercise. We will compare the good reading exercise and the qualities of a comprehension questions. After that, a variety of other reading exercises are described which may also be used in intensive reading. On the other hand, the basic weakness of comprehension questions is that a simple question form can do so many things. A question can check vocabulary, sentence structure, inference, supposition, the ability to understand the question itself, and many other things. It is not always easy to decide which of these is being asked for in a particular question. And now let us evaluate comprehension questions as a type of exercise by seeing how it fit the four criteria given or discussed the previous section. So we have the four good reading exercise. The good reading exercise directs the learner's attention to features of the text can be found in almost any text. A good exercise directs the learner's attention to the reading text. A good reading exercise provides the teacher and the learners with useful feedback. And a good reading exercise is easy to make. Let us discuss that one by one. Number one, understanding the text itself. In comprehension questions, it focuses only the understanding of the text itself. It means comprehension questions are local rather than general. Comprehension questions focus on the message of a particular text. Although learners requires to use their general knowledge, such as interpretation of reference words or modal verbs. This requirement is usually hidden to the learner and often to the teacher by the message focusing effect of the question. The teacher's aim should be to help the learners develop knowledge of the language and its conventions of use and strategies so that they can successfully deal with any text that they may meet. This knowledge of the language, however, is more difficult to gain if the learner's attention is directed not towards the language, but towards the meaning or message of a particular text. The motivation to give attention to language features is different from the motivation to give attention to particular messages. That is according to George 1972. Comprehension questions say to the learners, do you understand this passage? Whereas a good intensive reading exercise should say, can you handle these language features which are in this passage and other passages? Number two, it directs learners' attention to read the text. Generally, comprehension questions direct learners' attention to the reading text, although occasionally some questions are answerable from the learner's own experiences without having to refer to the text. Comprehension questions in standardized tests are usually pre-tested to make sure that they cannot be answered without the reading text. Comprehension questions can be designed to make the learners consider more than one sentence in the text in order to find the answer. Number three, as comprehension questions can do so many jobs, therefore it is difficult in getting useful feedback. Is it not always clear which job of a comprehension questions they are doing, and thus it is difficult really to get a feedback? Study from Monby, 1968, tried to solve this problem by using very carefully constructed multiple choice comprehension questions. The value of Momby's technique is that through the discussion, it becomes clear to the learners that they have made errors in comprehension, and these errors, as long as their causes are clearly identified, can be avoided by mastering recurrent language features. There are three important weaknesses in the technique. First, such comprehension questions are difficult to make. Second, such questions are clearly inefficient in terms of opportunity for learning the significance of a particular language feature. For example, there will be probably one or two questions at the most for one text which focus attention on conjunction relationships, and so the learners will have few opportunities to master them. Third, from the learner's point of view, the most important information that they will gain from making an error is that they made the wrong choice, and their interest will be in discovering what the right answer rather than discovering what they should do to avoid a certain error or similar error in the future. Thus, comprehension questions, which could give valuable feedback to the learners, will be unlikely to do so because there will always be the more immediate attraction of getting the right answer for that particular item. Number four, it is difficult to make good comprehension questions. It takes considerable skill, time, and effort. Thus, most teachers who wish to use such exercise will be forced to rely on often unsuitable published material. In spite of these disadvantages, comprehension questions are useful ways of practicing only reading and of motivating learners to read.
Yes, good morning everyone. May due respect to our course professor, none other than Dr. Lawrence Anthony Doliente. Sir, good morning. And of course to all of us here, my classmates, a pleasant morning to all of us. So we are tasked to discuss the chapter 3 of our topic, and which is the intensive reading. I am tasked with three topics, and the first one is the comprehension of the text. So typically, comprehension questions are used as the major means of focusing on comprehension of the text. So the learners read a text and then answer questions about the content of the text. So since it is a major means, this is our only way or the best way for us to have the comprehensive thinking of our students. So we have to raise questions or some questions below or reading between the lines in order for us to exercise the comprehension of our students. So there is a variety of question types that can be used in this reading comprehension. So number one is pronominal questions. So these questions beginning with who, what, when, how, and why, or the we are very familiar of WH and H question. So we have here two examples. Number one, what is sasakad? Number two, how long does a fixation take? So this question often tests the writing ability as well as the reading ability because of the learner must write the answers. So the question can ask for one-word answers. For example, okay, what is the title of the text? Or for you, what would be the title of the selection or the article? So one word answer, or ask the learners to copy the answers directly from the passage. So this makes it easier to mark, and the learners can also answer questions using their first language. So instead of questions, command may be used also. So first language, for example, we are living in a Ilonggo community, we can use our Hiligaynon language. For example, pareho sa akon, iligay nun ako. So, the first language of other or students, for example, we have Ilocano, Bicolano, and whatever. So, it is also encouraged to ask the questions using your first language. So sabi nga kanina, instead of questions, we can also have the command. So we can use it also. For example, explain the three kind of eye actions or describe a fixation. So no question mark, no question at all, but you command the students. So we have the number 2. So sabi nga, we have the number 2, the yes-no questions and alternative questions. So, it only need short answers kasi nga it is answerable by yes or no. So, the learners do not need to have a higher level of writing skills kasi because they don't have to explain further about their answers. So, for example, we have here, does a fixation take a longer time than jump? Does every word get a fixation? So, yes, no. So, it is just answerable of a yes or no. Next, we have the true or false sentences. So, similar to yes or no questions, as yes or no questions, the learners have 50% chance of guessing correctly. Since we have two alternatives or two choices, it's either of the two, so 50-50, it's 100. So example, a good reader makes about 10 fixations per second. So next is most jumps are from one word to another. So we have here the sentences. So those are the example of true or false sentences. Okay, let's have the number 4. So the multiple choice sentences, of course, it is easy to mark because we will have the correct answer. It's A. It's either A, B, or C, or D. So if 4 choices are given, the learners have only 25%. So in probability, especially in statistics, we discussed the probability of the answer, of the correct answer. So in or guessing it correctly. So a good multiple choice questions are not easy to make, and often they are more difficult than they should be. So because we exerted in creating the multiple choice sentences or questions, we exerted much time to think of it, but our students more likely answer it like bantut, but these multiple choice sentences can also encourage the comprehension of our learners. So next is, for example, number 1, a fixation. So letter A takes about 2/10 of a second. Letter B is about 1 word long. So letter C is the opposite of regression. And letter D is longer in Finnish than in English. So here we can observe that there are 4 alternatives or choices. So they are just going to choose what would be the best answer for the statement. Okay, let's proceed to the sentence completion. From the word completion, we have to complete the sentence itself. So the learners complete sentences by filling the empty spaces to show that they understand the reading passage. The sentences come after the reading passage. So right after they read the passage, we will have this sentence completion. So we have here. So there are 4 types of sentence completion. Number 1, the sentences are exact copies of the sentences in the passage. So what we have in the passages or in the passage itself would have we will quote or have some sentence, then we will just omit one word in order for have this kind of sentence completion. So we have the number 2, the missing words that can be found in the passage. Yun nga kanina, they're going to have or they're going to find what is the missing word. So we have the number 3 type would be the sentences are not exactly the same as the sentences in the passage, although they talk about the same idea. So we could have our own words here. So as long as it correlates or coincide in the idea and the passage. So lastly, we have the missing words are not in the passage. So the learners must use their knowledge of vocabulary to fill the empty spaces. So maybe in our time in high school, we are used of it that vocabulary or unfamiliar words are used in order for us to think on how we're going to use it in a sentence and how we're going to understand the word itself through the sentence given. So example of the sentence completion would be a skilled reader makes about blank fixations per 100 words. Another is a skilled reader makes around blank fixations per minute. So we will just measure if they really understand or read the passage. Okay, let's proceed to the number 6, variety of types or question types that can be used in comprehension of the text, which is the information transfer. So the learners complete an information transfer diagram based in the information and the text. That's according to Palmer. No? So, for example, we have here on the left side, we have dumplings, 1 cup self-raising flour, or we have the ingredients as well as the procedure. So they're just going to transfer the information on the given text or in the passage using a table or a diagram. Here in our right side, we have an example of a table. So materials or ingredients, yun nga. It was enumerated: flour, salt, milk, olive, tools, equipments, and also the steps. And of course, as the result of those would be the dumplings. So that is an information transfer. From one information, we're going to transfer it with or in the diagram. Now let's proceed to the 7th type of the question that can be used in comprehension of the text. So we will have the translation. So the learners must translate the passage into another language. Although translation is often special skill, it can also show areas of difficulty that learners have in reading. So even as teachers, we are used to have these translations, language teachers. If we don't really understand the passage or the sentence, we will have the translation from second language to the first language in order for us to really understand what it is to be. So number 8, we have the précis, the writing a short composition about 1/4 of the length of the passage containing all the main ideas that are in a passage. So that is called précis. So it can be done as a group work. So the learners are divided into small groups. Each group makes a list of the main ideas in the passage. So they're going to enumerate what are the main ideas in the passage. So then the class as a whole discusses the main points and the teacher writes them on the blackboard. Then each group writes the précis from the given or from the enumerated main ideas. So according to Chambers and Brimham, 1989, however, suggests a more teachable strategy by summary deletion. So here are the steps. Number 1, read the passage and delete all the sentences that merely elaborate the main sentence. So those giving more elaboration or explanation on the sentence, so we're going to have the deletion or elimination in this reading. So number 2, delete all unnecessary clauses and phrases from the main sentences. So unnecessary, it can stand without those clauses or phrases, so we have to delete that one. And of course, we have the number 3, delete all unnecessary again, but words from what remains. So from the deletion of the phrases or clauses, we're going to delete also the unnecessary words from what remains in our sentence. Number 4, we should replace the remaining words with our own expression. So for better understanding, we have to replace or to change or remove, then have another word for us to better understand, or to understand better what would be the meaning of a sentence. And of course, we should write the summary out neatly. So, dapat hindi siya sample, hindi siya nagkakarambola. Dapat it can be easily understood, not only for us, but also to our group members. Okay. Since we are done of my first topic, we'll proceed to the second topic that I was tasked, which is the focus of comprehension questions. So questions are literally has its own focus. So what it intend to be. So these questions, for example, this question may solicit the main idea, the supporting idea, or maybe we'll have the yes or no in order for us to have the answers. So again, we'll have the focus of comprehension questions. So literal comprehension of the text. According to Tollefson 1989 and Day and Park 2005, there are several schemes to describe the possible focuses of the comprehension questions. So number one, we have the literal comprehension of the text. So this involves the understanding what the text are explicitly says, or at there is a yes, such question can be answered by quoting parts of the text. So this question would be more demanding if the learners were not allowed to look at the text while answering the question. So maybe it demands more understanding of our students. So sabihin natin, okay, we'll have the close notes. Okay. Now we'll have the number two, the drawing inferences from the text. So we're going to draw or to create our own understanding from the text. So this involves taking messages from the text itself that are not explicitly stated, but which could be justified by references to the text. So in our prior knowledge, some of the passages or the articles has really the implied meaning. So we're going to have the or to quote those messages or ideas, but we have to have a reference in order for us to justify the meaning. Number three, so using of the text for other purposes in addition to understanding. So addition lang, no? Addition of other text. So it involves applying ideas from the text to solve problems, applying the ideas in the text to personal experience, comparing ideas in the text with other ideas outside in the text, and imagining extensions of the text, and of course the fitting of ideas into a text wider field as a review of the literature. So somehow we learned out of our experiences. So it's about applying or suiting our ideas in the text, or from the text we're going to suit the ideas in our own experience. We have number four, the responding critically to the text. So we're going to respond. So this involves the considering the quality of the evidence in the text, evaluating the adequacy of the content of the text, and also evaluating the quality of expression and clarity of language of the text, expressing agreement or disagreement with the ideas of the text, and lastly, expressing the satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the text. So the value in having the list of such focuses is that it allows teachers to check the questions they set their learners to see if they are providing a suitable range of focuses. Okay. So we have here in predicting the passage of the reading attempts to answer the question according to Henry 1984. So the starting point for the questions can be, number one, the title or the first sentence of the text, you know. Number two, the theme of the text. And number three, the pictures which accompany to the text. So we are familiar of some passages that there are some pictures or picture that is attached in order for us to have the idea about the article or the passage. And of course, we have the number 4, the previous parts of the text. Now let's proceed to the standardized reading procedure. Standard. So, what it is to be. So, standard reading exercises, learners are taught a series of questions to us that can be used with any text. So these questions can be taught in the learner's first language. So again, we go back to our first language, series of questions. So it takes not only one question, but a series of questions. So it can be 5 or more in order for us to have the standard reading exercises for the comprehension of our students. So again, we can thought those questions in our first language. If you're Ilonggo, you're going to use Hiligaynon. If you're Maguindanon, then you're going to use your own language. It can be. Okay, it can be. So in continuation, we will have the reciprocal teaching. So this involved the training of the use of the four strategies, which could be applied paragraph by paragraph to the text. So we have number 1, the prediction of the content. So of the paragraph before reading it. So upon reading the paragraph, we're going to predict what would be the passage or what would be it's all about. And it's more on prediction out of the first sentence or from the paragraph. Number 2, strategy would be making questions. So we are going to focus on the main idea in the paragraph and we will create questions that can be answered or answerable in the remaining paragraph of the passage. And we have the third strategy would be the summarizing what's just has been read. So we're going to summarize. For example, it consists of a long paragraph. Then what would be the main idea? So we're going to summarize it. So number 4, seeking clarification on difficult pattern in the paragraph. So seeking clarification, we could have some reading of vocabulary words or in dictionary. I mean, we could have it in internet. So seeking clarification, we're going to clarify what we don't have understand or those difficult words or ideas in the paragraph. So we will have now, or we will discuss the CORI or the concept-oriented reading instruction. So this is an integrated strategy approach to reading comprehension. So another approach to reading comprehension according to Guthrie 2003. So it involves number 1, systematic explicit instruction and 6 strategies that have presented a while ago. Next, of 6 strategies of activating background knowledge, questioning, searching for information, summarizing, organizing graphically, and structuring stories. So that is a concept-oriented reading instruction. So we have to do it systematically, searching the information, summarizing, organizing, and of course, structuring or creating the story out of the passage. So thank you very much for listening, my dear classmates, and of course to our professor. That would be all. We will proceed to our next topic.
Good morning once again. This is Jason Siwakand, and today I will be discussing to you how the strategy, techniques, and exercises improves the vocabulary of our learners in intensive reading. So in this slide, we have 3 principles on how we improve the vocabulary of our learners. So first, we have high frequency words. These are the words from the 2000 and academic word list. Second, low frequency words are best ignored or dealt with quickly. And the third one is the mixed method of high and low frequency words. So there are techniques for high frequency vocabulary. So when we say high frequency vocabulary, ito yung mga words na kadalasang ginagamit sa isang teksto o kalimitang ginagamit sa isang particular na text. So, first, pre-teach a small amount of vocabulary from the passage before reading the passage. Such teaching must involve a reasonable amount of time on each word, focusing on several aspects of its form, meaning, and use, such as pronunciation, its word part, its meaning, different senses of words, common collocation, its grammar, and any restriction on its use, such as being technical, colloquial, impolite, and etc. So, um, in this step, this is more on unlocking difficulties sa mga bata kasi um, magtuturo ka ng mga vocabulary na hindi pa nila nababasa yung passage. So, second, put the word in an exercise after the text. Such exercise can include completing word family tables, matching words, and meanings. So, dito na part, um, magkakaroon ka ng exercise. Okay, halimbawa na exercise is use the word in a sentence. So, after mo maturo, after ka mag-pre-teach sa step 1, dito gagamitin na nila yung words in a sentence. And number 3, spend time on a word during the reading, looking at several aspects of its form, meaning, and use para familiarize ang mga bata sa salita na yon. Okay, number 4, make a glossary before learners read the text. The glossary is there to help learn the words. So, I remember nung high school po ako, ang ginagawa ng teacher sa amin ay pinahahanap kami ng mga text, ng mga passage, and then nililista namin doon yung mga words, and then nilalagyan namin ng meaning and its use. So, isa sa mga halimbawa yon. Kasi pag sinabi ting glossary, ito yung mga terms with meaning para matulungan ang bata na kapag magbabasa na siya sa isang text, ay madali niyang maunawaan yung mga word na yon. Okay, second techniques is for low frequency vocabulary. Pag sinabi nating low frequency vocabulary, ito yung hindi ginagamit kasi ito yung mga mahihirap na words. Ito lang yung kadalasang makikita natin sa mga text. Okay. First technique is you have to ignore the word kasi nga time consuming kapag i-dealt mo yung word na yon. And then quickly give the meaning of the word by using a translation, picture, diagram, demonstration, or language to definition. Okay, automatic na ibibigay mo yung meaning ng mahirap na word na yun, yung unfamiliar word. Kasi, again, sabi ko, it's a time consuming kapag hindi mo ibigay agad. Then, replace the word on the text with a more useful high frequency word before the learners work on the text. So, yung mga unfamiliar words, yung mga mahirap na words sa text, ang gagawin natin ay papalitan natin ng mga madadaling salita, yung mga synonym ng mga words na yon para accessible for learners, para madali nilang maintindihan. And number 4, same as high frequency vocabulary, gagawa sila ng glossary, yung terms of meaning, so that the learners can see the meaning of low frequency, thus avoiding the need to spend valuable class time on them. So, here, the glossary has the role of getting rid of the need to pay attention to the words. Kasi kapag hindi niya alam kung ano ng word na yon, it's very time consuming, sabi ko. Kasi ano kaya meaning nito? Ano kaya ibig sabihin nito? So, para maiwasan yung mga gano'n na bagay. So, number 3 techniques, strategy focus techniques for high and low frequency word. So, first, help learners use context clues to guess the meaning of the word. The main goal is to practice and refine the guessing from context strategy. Second, help learners break a word into parts and relate the meaning of each part to the meaning of the word. The main goal of this is to practice the word part strategy. Number 3, help learners use a dictionary to look up the meaning of a word and then to gather extra information about the word so as make it stay in their memory. So ito yung um, strategy focus techniques for high and low frequency word. So another strategy or exercises is guessing from the context strategy. So it has 5 steps. So paano ba natin mag-guess yung mga context clue? Okay, first, decide what part of speech the word passage. So, may mga words sa text or passage na, okay, halimbawa sa line number 1, okay, line number 2. So, may mga parts of speech na nandun. So, dapat alam ng student kung ano yung parts of speech sa every line ng passage. Then, kung alam number 2, kung alam na ng bata kung ano yung parts of speech, do what does what or what is what. Okay, kung ma-determine niya it is in adjective, for example, remote, sabihin mo what is remote. Or if it is an adverb, for example, cosmically, ask what is cosmically. Okay, and then after you do the what does what exercise, Um, proceed to number 3. See if the word is involved in any conjunction relationship. When I say conjunction, ito yung mga words na nagko-connect sa bawat words sa isang sentence. So, titingnan natin doon kung meron bang conjunction relationship. And then, guess the meaning of the word. So, i-guess natin yung meaning ng word na yon. And then, after you guessing the word, check your guess by checking for any prefixes, roots, or suffixes that will confirm your guess if it is correct or that might cause you to guess again. And by substituting your guess for the word in the passage to see that it makes sense. According yan kay Nation 201, 256 to 260. So, another exercise is the parts of speech. So, paano ba natin ginagawa itong parts of speech para malaman ng bata kung yung word na yon is an adjective or an adverb or a noun? Okay. The teacher chooses words from the passage and writes them with their line number on the blackboard. The learners find each word in the passage and say whether it is a noun or a verb or an adjective or an adverb by writing N for noun, V for verb, ADJ for adjective or adverb after ito. Okay, halimbawa, so ito, um, maglalagay ka ng ganito sa blackboard. Okay, number 1, line, maglalagay ka sa blackboard ng line 2, read. So, hahanapin ng bata doon sa text, doon sa passage, kung anong line 2 ang word read. Kung read, kung noun ba siya, verb ba siya, adjective ba siya. Okay. So, hindi lang isa, dapat mga tatlo o marami. Then, okay, line example. For example, line number 4. Remote. Ganon. Line number 6. Cosmically. Okay, mga ganon. Then, the words chosen for this exercise are usually words that can be different parts of speech in different contexts. Being able to recognize the part of speech of a word in a given context has 3 values. First, when trying to guess the meaning of a word from the context, knowing the part of speech of the word will make sure that the meaning guessed is the same parts of speech. Dapat same part of speech. Second, it makes looking up the word in a dictionary much easier because the meaning of words are usually classified according to the part of speech of the word. And then third, if a sentence is difficult to understand, it might be because the learners are applying the wrong meaning or function to one or more of the words in the sentence. By checking the part of speech of the words, the learners may be able to understand the sentence. So, next, sentence. So, next activity or next strategy is the what does what or what is what. Okay, ano ba itong what does what or what is what? It's an exercise that makes the learner look for the noun-verb relationships. Okay, kung halimbawa kung bubuo tayo ng isang sentence, ito yung noun, ito yung verb. So kung sentence siya, pag yung verb automatic magfa-follow siya sa noun. Okay, noun, verb. Okay, halimbawa, Anna is beautiful. So mapapansin natin kung singular yung noun, automatic singular yung verb. Pero kapag paano kung nasa passage na siya, nasa isang teksto, so masyadong may ibang noun na masyadong malayo sa verb. So ito yung strategy na mas makikita natin yung noun-verb relationship. The learners need to ask themselves the question, what does what or what is what, in order to see this relationship. The exercise becomes more difficult if the subject or object of a verb is separated from the verb by a clause. Ito yung sinasabi ko. Or if the verb is acting as a noun or adjective. Okay, dapat doon pa lang sa parts of speech, master na ni student kung ano yung pagkakaiba ni verb, ni adjective, ni noun. Okay. The teacher chooses verbs or words related to the verbs from the passage and writes the list of words with line numbers on the blackboard. So, kagaya ng sinabi ko sa parts of speech kanina, yung line 2, read. Okay, line 2, select. The learners find these words in the passage and write the subject and objects, if any, of the words according to the passage. All the verbs should be written as active verbs. So, when I say active verbs, yun yung mga root words, yung mga salitang ugat. Okay. Like for this example, in this passage, independent reading is an activity in which children alone or with friends read their own self-selected books during a set period of time each day. It is similar to the recreational reading done by adults and provides a time for children to enjoy reading and to practice the skills. Learn and guide reading sessions. Okay, kung mapapansin natin dito, um, dapat itong dapat nakalinya siya. So, sorry, nasira siya sa then um, base na lang po kayo doon sa sa PDF. So, ito, line 2, supposedly dito yan sa baba, tong read their own. Yan, line 2. And then line 2 again, select. Yan, select. Then line 4, provide. Sa passage ito ha, nasira lang kasi hindi na edit. Okay, line 4, enjoy. Then line 4, practice. So, tanungin mo yung bata, what does what or what is read? What is select? What is provide? And what is enjoy or what is practice? So next, coordination activity. Etong coordination activity involves simplifying sentence. Okay, often when there is and but or in a sentence, there are two parts of the sentence that are similar to each other, and these parts may relate to some common part of the sentence. So in the sentence, the Earth is a planet just under 80,000 miles in diameter, moving around the sun at a distance of 93 million miles and completing one circuit in 365 and 1/4 days. So, okay. So may mga sentence sa passage na parallel lang siya or similar to each these parts. So, yung moving around, yung moving around the sun at a distance of 93,000 miles and completing one circuit in 365 days are parallel. So, pareho lang siya. So, pwede mo siyang gawaan ng dalawang sentence. So they are both relate to the common part of the Earth, which is the Earth is planet just under 8,000 miles in diameter. So, ma-rewrite natin siya into uh, the Earth is a planet just under 8,000 miles in diameter, moving around the sun at a distance of 93 million miles. Ito yung first sentence. And our second sentence is the Earth is planet just under 8,000 miles in diameter, completing one circuit in 365 and one-fourth days. So, you can see, we have two sentences now na pinagdugtong natin ng and. So, where the items joined by and, but, or are short, if it is not worth rewriting the sentence, when answering the exercise, instead, the similar parts can be underlined and numbered. The teacher writes the line numbers of and, but, or on the whiteboard. Okay, for example, line number 20, and. So, ito yung magdedetermine ng coordination ng two sentences. Okay. The learners have to mark the parallel parts or rewrite the sentence as two or more sentences. If learners find the exercise difficult, it can be broken into the following steps. Kung mahirap gawin ang exercise na to sa isang bata, pwede natin siyang may nakalagay dito na 5 steps para mag-guide sa bata. Okay, number 1, of course, find and, but, or. Okay, hanapin mo yung conjunction doon, yung and, but, or. Then, look at what follows. Tingnan mo kung ano yung kasunod nun, kung parallel ba siya doon sa una. Then, find a similar part of speech in front of and, but, or. Then, decide what part of the sentence, kung meron man, the similar parts relate to, and rewrite the sentence so that each sentence contains the common part plus one of the similar parts. Yun yung ginawa natin dito kanina. Okay? Next is simplifying noun groups. Okay, kagaya ng coordination activity, ang simplifying noun groups involves looking for the essence of a sentence. Noun groups containing items following the head word, head word of the group add considerably to the difficulty of a sentence. Here are some examples from the sample text on reading speed. Okay, halimbawa nito, the head word in the noun group has been underlined. So, 3 types of action. Ito yung head word natin. Types. Then, movements back to an item already looked at. Ito yung head word. An item already looked at. Ito yung head word natin. The maximum number of letters that can be seen clearly in one fixation. So, paano ba natin malalaman na saan ang head word ng common noun group? So, okay, my steps. So, dito, the learners find these words in the passage, circle them, and draw a bracket at the beginning of the noun group and another bracket for the end. If the noun group contains words which come after the head word, the learners show what form these following words take by writing a number according to the list given below. Here are the 7 kinds of items that may typically follow the head word of a noun group. Okay, with examples. The head word has been underlined and the following items are in italics. Okay. Number 1, a preposition plus a noun. So, okay. Ito sa sentence na ito, sa phrase na ito, their own special points of interest. Okay. Saan ba dito yung preposition? Preposition is of plus a noun interest. Okay. So, ito yung head word natin, points. Number 2, who, that, which, etc. plus a clause. Okay. Ito yung who natin, that, which. Ito yung which natin pala. And then followed by plus a clause. Do not appear. So, before yon, ito yung head word natin. Then, number 3, stem plus ing. Okay. Complete plus ing equals completing. Ito yung head word natin, planet. Stem plus ed. Manufacture plus ed, manufactured. Okay. Lens. And number 5, lenses is the head word and followed by to plus stem. Ito yung to plus stem, yung to enjoy. And then number 6, a noun in a position. Okay? So, ito yung head word natin, the satellite. Ito yung noun in a position natin, the moon. And then, 7, an adjective, this, visible. Ito yung adjective natin, then ito yung head word natin. So, sentence simplifying strategy. Okay. By combining exercise that they have practiced before, reference words, coordination, simplifying noun groups, and what does what, learners can simplify sentences that seem to be complicated for them to understand. The strategy has 4 steps. Okay. Step 1, find the reference words in the difficult sentence and which what they refer to. Okay. Then, rewrite the sentences as 2 or more sentences by removing and, but, or. And step 3, find the nouns and remove the items following the nouns which are part of each noun group. Okay, number 4, do the what does what exercises with the verbs to make sure their objects and objects are known. Okay, like for example, this one. If the sentence, of course, the nearest to us are Mars, which may approach the Earth to within 35 million miles, and Venus, which has a minimum distance from us of only about 24 million miles, was simplified according to these steps. So, balikan natin yung step 1. Find the reference words in the difficult sentence and find what they refer to. When we say reference words, ito yung mga pronoun. Okay, panghalili sa pangalan. So, kung babalikan natin dito, ano yung mga reference word na andito sa isang sentence? Okay, dito. Sa the nearest to us are Mars, which may approach the Earth to within 35 million miles. So, yung reference words natin, yung pronoun, which, etong which is tumutukoy sa Mars. So, na-determine na natin yung which. And then sa kabila, yung Venus, which, yung which dito ay tumutukoy sa Venus na planet. Okay, number 2, rewrite the sentence as 2 or more sentences by removing and, but, or. Okay. So, na-determine na natin yung which. So, ang mangyayari, iuumit na natin yung and, but, or. Okay, dito, sa sentence na ito, na-omit na natin, or na-omit na ang and, but, or. So, ito na siya. The nearest to us are Mars, comma, which may approach the Earth to within 35 million miles, and Venus, which has a minimum distance from us of only about 24 million miles. Okay, so na-rewrite na siya into 2 sentences. And next, find the nouns and remove the items following the nouns which are part of each noun group. So, saan ba dito yung noun? Okay, saan ba dito yung noun? Yung Mars and Venus. So, anong sabi doon? Remove the items following the nouns which are part of each noun group. So, i-remove natin yung which may approach the Earth to within 35 million miles and which has a minimum distance from us of only about 24 million miles. So, ang maiiwan ay the result would be, of course, the nearest are Mars and Venus. Okay. Number 4, step 4, do the what does what exercise with the verbs to make sure their subjects and objects are known. So, when we say what does what, it is a noun-verb relationship. So, that's end my report and God bless us all. Thank you very much.
Good day, teachers. This is the continuation of Mr. Wakan's report. Okay, it is just a brief summary of what is being reported a while ago. Okay, so now let's talk about intensive reading. It is a good opportunity for making learners aware of how the various vocabulary, grammatical, cohesive, formatting, and ideas content aspect of a text work to achieve the communicative purpose of the text. And a useful introduction to this is the predicting activity, uh, where learners use the topic and the first sentence to predict what is a text all about. Okay, so the title of the text is Limestone Caves. Okay, and the first sentence of the uh, this title, uh, for example, limestone is just one of the many kinds of rocks found in New Zealand. Okay, so that is the example of intensive reading. And for that, we need to predict what will occur in the following text. And the learners at this point can draw on a several generalizable systems of knowledge. These include features that we have looked at earlier in this chapter. Okay, so which is the grammatical features, particularly the verb forms and noun groups, the conjunction relationships, and the topic types. Okay, next is we will talk about uh, a brief summary of what will be the or what will be talk about the handling the exercises. Okay, most of the exercises described in this chapter have one important feature in common, and also uh, they do not require specially constructed or adapted text. They can be applied to any text that the teacher has, or to text that the learners use in their study of other subjects. Okay, so moreover, from handling the exercises, it is do not or the exercises do not require a large amount of preparation. The exercises can be written up quickly on the blackboard. For example, the learners can use some type of coding system to mark them on their text, like underlining for reference words, a box around a word or part, or for part of speech, and so on and so forth. And also, each exercise is like a test, but it should be clear to the learners what feature they are looking at, or in the significance of this feature for reading. So that is the handling. The next one is what will be the uh, what we call that, the rule of teaching exercises, or what will be the implication of those exercises related to teaching and learning process. The focus in this chapter has been on the language focused learning activities that teach rather than just provide practice. This meaning focused input materials provides the learners with experience in reading and allows them to apply what they have learned in other parts of the reading course. And also, exercises that teach are used in this or in that belief that through such teaching, okay, learning will be faster and more sure. Such exercises have an obvious value where time is short or where learners have not succeeded in learning. And to read well by other methods, by these exercises are not a substitute for practice. It is very important that learners should have the opportunity to gain the meaning focused input through reading plenty of materials does not contain too many unknown or difficult items. And also, this will be the last, uh, in the role of teaching exercises, they should also have the opportunity to work with very easy material so that they can develop fluency in reading. So these 2 points are taken up in the following chapter on extensive reading. So that could be all, and thank you for listening. God bless us.